Lock it again. The human was bleeding from his knuckles where he had been beating on the blast door, his voice raw, his eyes fixed not on the guards pointing rifles at him, but on the seam of light growing wider behind them. "Please," he said. "You don't understand what you just let out." Arbiter Selene had judged pirates and warlords and once a fleet commander who had burned a moon, but she had never seen a human beg. The Quen had catalogued humans for 42 years, since they had arrived at the edge of Council space in slow, patched ships that should not have flown. The file said humans were stubborn, emotional, unusually cooperative for a Deathworld species. They said humans obeyed the Deathworld Protocol without question, which no other species did. And now this one had broken it. They put mag cuffs on him that were meant for Croth berserkers. He did not fight them. He kept staring at the vault. The vault should not have been on the Bastion. The Bastion was a station the size of a small moon, built around the oldest piece of technology in the galaxy, a map. 12,000 black beacons burned on that map, each one marking a planet no one was allowed to touch. The protocol was simple. The beacons were placed by the first builders. The worlds they marked would kill you. Do not approach. Do not answer. Do not land. The human, Captain Elias Vance of the UHS Mercy, a search and rescue ship with no guns, had answered, approached, and landed on Tartarus 9. The beacon for Tartarus 9 had been dark for 20,000 years. "What did you bring back?" Commander Varric asked. Varric was Vryn, all plates and scar tissue, and he commanded Bastion security. He believed humans were pretending to be harmless. Elias did not answer him. He looked at Selene. "Arbiter, you have children in your brood crats, right?" "3?" Selene stiffened. The Quen kept their young in glass water until their third molt. Outsiders were not supposed to know. "I heard one of them calling," Elias said. "From Tartarus 9. I heard a child calling for help on a frequency no one has used for 10,000 years. Selene signaled Varric to hold. The vault door finished opening. Cold spilled out, not temperature, but the smell of old stone and wet soil, a smell that should not exist on a station that had never seen dirt. Inside the vault there was no weapon. There was no predator. There was a box, about 1 meter long, made of something that was not metal, covered in dust, and on its side, handprints. Small handprints, human. Elias made a sound that was not quite a word. 6 hours earlier, his ship had been running a standard sweep along the edge of the shroud. The Mercy was not a warship. It had medical bays, cutting lasers for wreckage, and a crew of 12, who had all volunteered because they could not stand leaving people behind. The Mercy had one rule, painted in its airlock, in 6 languages. No one left. The distress call came in at 3:17 station time. It was not on a console band. It was on an ancient emergency frequency that Earth had stopped using before they had even discovered faster-than-light travel. The voice was a little girl. "Is anyone out there? This is Seedling Shelter 4. Our beacon is dying. The lights are dying. Is anyone out there? Please." Selene listened to the recording in the interrogation room. She had 4 auditory membranes, and she heard the tremor in it. It was not a perfect recording. There was static, and there was fear. Varric snorted. "Fabrication. You humans make these to lure each other. You broke protocol for a trick." "It wasn't a trick," Elias said. His cuffs were still on. He sat with his hands on the table, and Selene noticed his hands were shaking. Not from fear, from exhaustion. "I ran the signal analysis, the time dilation, the decay. That message had been looping for 80 years. The child who recorded it would be dead by now. Maybe her children recorded the next loop. I had to look." "You had to obey the law," Varric said. Elias looked up at him, and for the first time, his voice had edge. "Your law says, do not enter Deathworlds because the planet will kill you. My law says, If a child is screaming in a burning house, you go in. Which law would you want your Kretsch to live under? Celine raised a hand. Among the Quen, that meant silence. She had read the human file. Humans came from a Class 12 death world. High gravity, extreme weather, predators, disease, tectonic instability. Most death world species were aggressive, territorial. Humans were not. They were the only death world species that domesticated predators for companionship. They brought pictures of their young to diplomatic meetings. They asked other species about their children. They had volunteered for disaster relief on worlds where their own biology was in danger. And whenever the black beacons were mentioned, humans went quiet. She had always thought that was respect for a lower law. She was starting to think it was something else. "Open the box," she told Varric. Varric did not want to. Protocol said any object from a death world had to be incinerated. But Celine was arbiter of the Bastion, and the Bastion's first law was that the arbiter's word was final until the council overruled it. The box opened when Elias touched it. No one else could make it open. The Vryn technicians had tried. Inside was soil. Dark, rich soil. And in the soil, a single green shoot. Alive, impossibly alive, after 20,000 years, in a box. And beside it, a data slate. Human make, but so old its casing was pitted. It powered on when Elias picked it up. Words appeared on it in Old Earth English, then auto-translated into Council Standard. Property of Seedling Project Tartarus 9. Lead Archivist, East Vance. Elias stared at the name. "That's my name," he whispered. Elias Vance. My great-grandmother was named Vance. Celine felt the first cold touch of wrongness. She had studied the beacons for 100 years. The first builders had placed them long before any known species had flight. The human translation of the beacon warning had always been accepted. "Here be death. Do not enter. For your own safety." But humans had never been asked to translate it. The translation came from the Vryn, who found the first beacon. "Play the rest," she said. Elias touched the slate. A woman's face appeared. She was human, but her eyes had a faint reflective layer, like a cat. Her hair was white. Behind her, children played in a garden under a red sky, under a dome that was cracked. "My name is Archivist Maya Vance. If you are seeing this, the containment has failed, or we have finally been forgiven. This is log 1402. The air outside is still bad. The soil is still bad. But the children are good. We keep telling them about Earth. We tell them Earth is blue. We tell them the protocol was not made to keep aliens out." She smiled, tired. "It was made to keep us in." The room went silent. Varric stepped back from the box, as if it would bite him. "Explain," Celine said to Elias. Her voice was very quiet. "I don't know," Elias said. "I swear I don't know. Earth history says we evolved there, that we left because we ruined the climate, and then fixed it, and then reached for stars. That we were alone." The slate continued playing on its own. More logs. The woman, Maya, older now, fewer children. The dome more broken. The protocol is failing in Sector 9. The other seedling worlds have gone dark. We were supposed to be the harshest school. We were supposed to learn how to be gentle here. That was the promise. Celine called for the linguist prime, an old floating SETI named Orr, who had spent its life studying first builder glyphs. Orr arrived and listened to the beacon signal from Tartarus 9, the original warning that had been playing for 20,000 years. Orr pulsed with distress colors. "We mistranslated," Orr said. "The grammar is inverted." We thought the subject was the reader. Do not enter because you will die. But the marker is possessive. It says, we are still inside. Do not let us out. We are not yet safe to leave. Varric's plates clacked. That is nonsense. The builders died out 2 million years ago. Did they? Celine asked. She looked at Elias, at the chute in the box. Or did they change their name? At that moment, the Bastion shuddered. Alarms that had not sounded in 10,000 years woke up. On the big map, one black beacon, Tartarus 9, turned from black to white. Containment breach, the station said, in a language that was not council standard. It was English. Containment breach. Seedling World 9 has been opened by authorized genome. Recovery protocol initiated. Returning assets to Bastion. Elias understood before anyone else. I opened it. When I landed, the ground recognized me. It thought I was coming home. Varric was already shouting into his comms to seal the docking bays, to arm the defense grid. Celine grabbed Elias's cuffed hands. What is coming? What are the assets? Elias looked at the image of the children in the garden, then at the last log, where Maya Vance was alone, old, speaking to an empty room. My people, he said. I think we left people there. The doors to the lower bastion, doors that had been sealed since the station was found, doors that no cutting torch could mark, began to open on their own. From inside came air that smelled like rust and sweat and green things, and footsteps, many. Varric's soldiers formed a line, rifles up. Celine stood in front of them without thinking, her water-filled robe slushing. The first figure to emerge was not a monster. It was a boy, maybe 10 years old, but wrong. His legs were too long, his chest too deep, his skin mottled to match stone. His eyes had that same reflective layer as Maya's south. He was breathing the station's air and coughing because it was too clean. Behind him came more, dozens, then hundreds, men and women in clothes made from patched environmental suits, carrying tools that had become weapons, carrying children who looked like the boy. They had not seen a sky that was not red in 400 generations. They had survived on a planet with twice Earth's gravity, with storms that could strip flesh, with soil that tried to poison them. The first builders had not built a prison. They had built a forge. The boy saw Elias. He saw the same face, the same genome marker that had opened the door. He made a sound, a chirp that the translator could not pass. But Elias understood, because somewhere deep in the human brain, older than language, it meant kin. Elias stepped forward. Varric shouted for him to stop. The soldiers tensed. Cold fire, Celine said, and her voice carried the weight of law. No one fires. Elias knelt, even with the cuffs, so he was smaller than the boy. He did not offer his hand. He offered water from the pouch at his belt. The universal human sign. I have. You need. The boy stared, then took it. His hands were scarred, strong enough to bend steel, but his hands shook. Behind the boy, an older woman pushed forward. She had Maya Vance's face, or rather, Maya had her face, 20 years and nations later. She looked at the box, at the green chute. You brought it back, she said, in broken, ancient English. You remembered the promise. What promise? Elias whispered. That someone would come back for us when we were ready to be gentle, she said. And then she started to cry, a sound no predator makes. Varric lowered his rifle a fraction. Arbiter, they are abominations. They are not council species. The protocol says, What we told it to say, Selene interrupted. She was looking at the map. All 12,000 beacons were still black, except one. 12,000 worlds, each one a garden like this, each one a school, each one a place where humans had been left to learn how to survive without conquering. Earth had been the last one, the kindest one, the one that finally produced a kind of human that would run into a burning house for a stranger's child. She turned to Elias. You knew. Not consciously, but your species knew. That is why you never approached the beacons. That is why you obeyed. You wrote the law. Elias shook his head, tears now too. We don't remember. Then it worked, said the woman from Tartarus 9. She touched the green chute. We were supposed to forget how to be empire. We were supposed to remember how to be people. Did we? Did Earth forget? Elias thought of the mercy, of the words painted in its airlock. No one left. He thought of every human ship that had stopped to help, of humans bringing their children to peace talks so they would learn other children were children too. Yes, he said, we remembered enough. The Bastion's guns, automated systems older than the Council, had been powering up to purge the breach, as they were designed to do if a seedling world failed and produced monsters. Selene saw the countdown on her display. 30 seconds. She could let it fire. It would save the station. It would keep the secret. It would be lawful. Or she could do what the human had done. She walked to the central console and placed her hand over the purge control, and then she broke it. Physically broke it, with a ceremonial staff that had never been used as a weapon. Varric, she said, get these children food, real food, and get the medical bays ready. They have been breathing poison for a long time. Varric stared at her, then at the boy drinking water, then at Elias, still kneeling in cuffs. He keyed his comm. All stations, stand down. Medical to lower Bastion, and bring blankets. Later, when the Council convened in emergency session and demanded to know why the Deathworld Protocol had been violated, Selene played them the original beacon translation, the correct one. We are still inside. Do not let us out until we have learned how to be kind. The Council chamber was silent for a very long time. The oldest delegate, a being made of light who remembered when humans first arrived with their patched ships, finally spoke. We thought they were the youngest, it said. And in the lower Bastion, where the children of Tartarus 9 were sleeping under blankets for the first time in their lives, Elias Vance sat with the green chute in its box of soil, and he finally understood why every human, when looking up at the stars, had always felt like they were coming home. The galaxy had not locked humanity out. Humanity had locked itself in until it was worthy to be let out.